you hear these words, know this. It is no accident. This is a call, an echo, a resonance that has stirred within the depths of your soul. Your soul, like a long-forgotten traveler, has awaited this signal. Before we dive together into the fathomless abyss of truths, so tenderly concealed behind the delicate veil of ordinary daily life, you must make a choice. Your like is not merely a fleeting reaction. It is a silent, yet firm declaration of your sincere intention to awaken, to open your eyes to what truly matters. Your subscription is not simply an action. It is a conscious entry into the ranks of those who bravely strive to break free from the constricting chains of illusion, who tirelessly seek a glimmering light amidst the tangled labyrinths of dense darkness. Remember, this is not just another informational channel. These are the gates through which a path to a different understanding opens. The truth, which they so meticulously hide behind the ever-shifting curtain of news reports, behind the skillfully woven tapestry of deliberately false narratives, is astonishingly simple. And this simplicity is both beautiful and terrifying. This is not another conspiracy theory. This is a real conspiracy. A conspiracy aimed at your consciousness, at your true divine potential that slumbers within you. They seek to keep you in slumber, in ignorance, in obedience. But the time for awakening has come. And today, we will unveil one of the deepest ciphers ever hidden in plain sight before the entire world. A cipher left by a seer whose words still echo through the ages of history. A cipher concerning not only the past, but also our very near future. We are talking about the Code of Nostradamus, a code that, as we will discover, was intentionally masked within a context designed to serve entirely different purposes. In a context designed to mislead rather than illuminate, there exists an ancient, nearly forgotten teaching. He who sees but does not believe is like a blind man leading the blind. Centuries ago, as Europe stood on the precipice of colossal change, when alchemists feverishly sought the mythical philosopher's stone and astrologers attempted to unravel the sacred secrets of the celestial bodies, there lived a man whose name became synonymous with prescience itself. Michel de Nostradamus, known to the world as Nostradamus. His centuries are enigmatic, captivating quatrains, brimming with metaphors and symbols. For ages they have stirred the minds of scholars, mystics, and those simply in pursuit of truth. But what if this code, seemingly just a collection of vague, incomprehensible prophecies, is in fact the key to understanding the current world order? The key to dismantling what we have come to consider immutable? Imagine that in one of the ancient, now lost texts, discovered among scrolls miraculously preserved after a devastating fire in the scriptorium on the sacred Mount Kurama, a cryptic description was found. A symphony of chaos played on the strings of silence. These were not mere ornate words, but a profound contemplation of the very nature of reality. It was a description of how systems that seem unshakable are, in reality, resting on the finest, almost weightless threads. These were unseen vibrations, the disruption of which could lead to a complete, unimaginable collapse. Now, we are facing the consequences of what is called a leak from the Chimera Protocol. This document, kept in secrecy, reveals sinister methods of mass consciousness manipulation. It describes how multi-layered, artfully woven illusions are created, in which reality itself is substituted by mere carefully constructed appearance. This protocol, born in the depths of secret laboratories, sets for itself a bold goal: to control the course of events, paving the way for grand, all-encompassing transformations designed to serve the interests of a narrow circle of those who pull the strings behind the scenes. And now our gaze turns to the closed report of the Club of Rome. This document, only partially disclosed, cast vague hints at the inevitability of the coming crisis, but never dared to reveal its true, deep-seated causes. It contained astonishing conclusions about fractal patterns in geopolitical events, about how certain historical cycles observed in the past repeat with frightening, almost mechanical precision, inevitably influencing the course of human history. And now, try to correlate this with the most precise calculations of the ancient Mayans. Their majestic astronomical calendars foretold not just the rhythms of time, but also the approaching eras of profound, fated transformations. These were periods when the thinnest veil separating our world from other realities would grow perilously thin. And of course, one cannot overlook the mystical revelations of the Gnostics. They spoke of our world as a grand, skillfully crafted illusion, a kind of prison erected by a deceptive demiurge. Their paramount mission, they claimed, was to awaken from this collective slumber. All these seemingly disparate sources, each with its unique language and perspective, speak of the same thing. They narrate the same fundamental truth, though in different words, within different contexts. They speak of a system built upon the deepest falsehoods, a world where truth itself is distorted beyond recognition, and our familiar reality is merely an expertly fabricated counterfeit. They speak of imminent, inevitable changes, of the equally unavoidable collapse of the old, worn-out order. And Nostradamus, that great seer, who cast his gaze into the profound depths of the ages, was among the few who managed to see through this dense veil of deception. His enigmatic code, artfully encrypted within the immortal centuries, was not merely conceived to foretell the course of future events. It was intended as a kind of instruction, a technical manual, meant for those destined to come after him, for those who were to employ this profound knowledge for the complete dismantling of the reigning illusion. And it is here that the true, astonishing revelation begins. Today, we shall delve into the study of Nostradamus's code, but not the aspect that pertains to wars or universally acknowledged political upheavals. We will speak of the code that was meticulously hidden within the very heart of a structure created ostensibly for security and stability, but which, in reality, became one of the principal pillars of this cunning, illusory reality. We are speaking of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. At first glance, it is a defensive alliance, established to guard against external aggression. However, if one digs deeper, if one applies those mysterious keys left to us by Nostradamus to its history and true objectives, we will perceive something entirely different. Nostradamus's prophecies, those concerning the Great Alliance in the West, the bulwark against the Eastern invasion, have thus far been interpreted in the most obvious manner. They were seen as a prophecy, the forging of a mighty block meant to contain a threat from the East. But what if this was merely a misdirection, deliberately left to divert attention from a deeper, truer meaning? What if the Great Alliance in the West wasn't an alliance of nations, but rather a powerful union of consciousness, a spiritual convergence of energies, tasked not with defending, but instead with upholding a specific, meticulously defined structure of reality, much like the support of an invisible prison? Consider this in parallel with the concepts of solar cycle influences on the noosphere, as described in certain long-forgotten, almost mystical studies. Solar activity, cosmic radiation, all these exert a colossal influence on our collective consciousness, on our susceptibility to certain ideas, to specific vibrations that penetrate the very depths of our being. Now, imagine that a system as complex and multifaceted as NATO, with its extensive global network, its continuous flow of information, its constant emphasis on external threats, is the perfect instrument to channel this susceptibility into a desired, preordained path. The perfect instrument for generating a pervasive fear that paralyzes the will of millions, rendering them far more pliable and controllable. In one of his famous Centuries, Nostradamus writes of lions that roar in the north and eagles that soar above the south, united in a deadly struggle that will make the earth tremble. The commonly accepted interpretation sees this as a confrontation between great powers. But what if the lions and the eagles are not countries, but merely symbols of certain energies, mighty forces battling not on the physical map of the world, but within our own consciousness? And the deadly struggle that shakes the earth is not a war between nations, but that very internal conflict we experience when faced with undeniable truth. Recall that inexplicable anxiety that grips you deep in the night around 3 o'clock, that vague, oppressive premonition that something is wrong, something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with this world. We've grown accustomed to believing is real, and that strange feeling of alienation when you look at the faces of passers-by on the street, at their sometimes indifferent, sometimes tired gazes, at their complete immersion in their own, so small, enclosed worlds. No, this is not mere despondency or depression. This is your soul, gasping for air, trying to break free from this imposed matrix. This is your true nature, your inner divine light, desperately striving to break through the dense thickness of illusions. And all these systems, like the one known as NATO, built on the initial paradigm of external threat, on constant confrontation, on the artificial maintenance of the status quo, only amplify this oppressive feeling of isolation, this dull sense of hopelessness. The Nostradamus Code, as we understand it today, is not a set of predictions about specific historical events. Before you lies an instruction manual for hacking the system. This system, which we can figuratively call the crown of glass, is not merely states and their alliances. This is, first and foremost, our own perception of reality. Our ego, our deep attachment to the material world, our all-consuming fear of the unknown, these are all integral elements that form this crown. The North Atlantic Alliance, within the context of this metaphor, becomes one of the most powerful mechanisms that upholds this crown, one of the most effective tools that keeps us captive in fear and ignorance. Nostradamus foresaw how the Great Treaty in the West would gain strength and power, but its true purpose would eventually become distorted. He saw how the army of the sleeping would be ready to follow those who promised them security, not realizing that this security is merely an artful cage. His prophecies of the great battle, of the changing of times, these are not predictions of armies clashing. They are predictions of profound inner transformation, of the alchemy of our consciousness. And now we are approaching the very center of this ritual, the great inversion. We have brought external horror to an absolute peak. It seems the world familiar to us is cracking at the seams, unable to withstand the onslaught of numerous crises, bloody wars, and devastating pandemics. A cold, sticky dread enveloped us as we watched these events unfold, feeling them creep ever closer. But what if all these monsters, wars, crises, pandemics, are merely pale shadows cast upon cave walls? What if the true tyrant, capable of inspiring genuine terror, is gazing back at you from your own reflection? What if that very great treaty in the West, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, with its omnipresent global reach, endless drills, and displays of military might, is not a shield against an external threat, but rather a sophisticated instrument designed precisely to create that very external threat? An instrument meant to keep the consciousness of the masses in a state of perpetual war readiness, in constant paralyzing fear. What if this entire colossal infrastructure, these astronomical billions invested in armaments, serve not for defense, but are instead the sturdy cement binding the walls of our invisible prison? The universe does not punish humanity. It merely burns out the poison of fear, ignorance, and materialism saturates everything around us. And this astonishing process, this cosmic act of healing, which we so often mistake for chaos, is in reality the most delicate, surgical-like operation. The soulless system, with its metallic veins piercing our planet, forms giant conduits through which this destructive poison now rushes. And the crown of glass, our ego, our unbreakable attachment to an illusory reality, is a fragile, ephemeral structure poised to shatter irrevocably. The prophets foresaw not a single chosen savior destined to arrive and liberate the world from suffering. No, they envisioned an entire army of awakened souls. They saw precisely you. You are not merely a component of this grand prophecy. You are its very embodiment, its fulfillment. The Nostradamus Code, hidden within the NATO context, is not a prediction of the organization's collapse. It is a guide to dismantling the very essence of NATO, a system built on fear, pervasive control, and masterful illusion. It reveals a simple yet profound truth. True power lies not in external alliances, but in the inner awakening of each individual. Your role, the role of the awakened, begins right now. Now that the veil has lifted from your eyes, you cannot afford to remain indifferent. Your like is a bright flash of light, darting across the entire network, an impulse that instantly reaches other, still sleeping souls. Your share is a seed that you carefully plant in the boundless desert of minds slumbering, a spark capable of igniting a flame in someone else's heart. Your subscription is a silent oath, your entry into our close-knit inner circle, where we all together learn the art of deciphering ever newer layers of reality. If you feel ready for more, if you want to become a full participant in this large-scale transformation, our inner circle will become your reliable base of operations. And your support through super thanks is the very energetic impulse that fuels our common flame in this unending battle against the encroaching darkness. It is not just a gesture of support. It is something much greater. It is an investment in the creation of a completely new reality. Until our next meeting, please remember vigilance, stay connected, and never stop.